This is the VAXEE XE-S. It's a mini version of the highly rated XE, which was my second favourite mouse of last year. You might look at this and think, alright, so it's smaller, but there's a lot more to this mouse than that, which I was honestly not expecting. The XE is one of VAXEE's least popular mice if we go by its usage in professional CS2, and it's also one of the biggest mice VAXEE make in terms of length, with it being around 4mm longer than their other models. The size reduction of the XE-S brings it down to the same length as fan favourites and some of the best gaming mice you can buy today. However, VAXEE includes something that makes them truly stand out as one of the best manufacturers. There are some much needed changes from the regular XE, and a change that will probably shape the future of VAXEE's mice, and I'll go through one of the more unpopular ones later. First, let's get the size part out of the way. The XE-S is 118mm long, 64mm at its widest, and 36mm tall, giving it a hefty size reduction across the board. The biggest change, and one of the most requested though, is the weight. VAXEE had previously said in their other product releases about trying to lower the weight of their mice, whilst trying to maintain the high standard of quality that they are known for, and we'll see if they've been successful in that later. The average weight of VAXEE's wireless mice has been around 72 grams, and for the XE-S it's been reduced by a massive 16 grams, taking the total weight to 60. And I'll give you a little teaser now, the quality hasn't been reduced with the XE-S's weight reduction. Before we get to that, there's some performance related improvements, as this is now using the newer Pixar 3950 sensor. This is what Razer had been using for their Focus Pro 30K optical. They had exclusivity which has now ended, so we will see a lot of mice with the 3950 start to be released. This doesn't mean a whole lot. The apparent improvements mainly relate to improved responsiveness when using motion sync at higher polling rates. I do have something to say about the performance side, which I will go through with my final thoughts. And if you didn't know, you do get a 4000Hz polling rate dongle included with the mouse. Before we take a look at the quality, the remaining internals are the same, but once again, such is the theme of VAXEE, there's been continuous improvements, and some of these were desperately needed. The switches are the same as the NP01 and the AX, so these are mechanical guano black shell pink dots. There's been some structural improvements here to make these feel a bit tighter and more responsive, with reductions to the pre and post travel, which have had a huge impact on how these feel overall. The scroll wheel has also been raised slightly higher. It might not look like it, but the scroll wheel itself on the regular XE was actually lower. It just contained a thicker bit of rubber on the outside, so the XE-S has been raised and is using a thinner bit of rubber. This has had an impact of the feel of it for me. It's now a bit tighter, but it's also louder. The mouse has been stripped down more to also save some weight, even going as far as to remove stickers on the bottom and saying goodbye to the button setup that they used to have to make changes on the mouse. Changing the DPI, polling rate and debounce times on the mouse is still rather easy, as you just hold the remaining button and it will light up the section you're going to be changing, and you press the button again to change the values. To change things like lift-off distance, motion sync and toggle competitive mode will require a few bop-it-like combo button presses. VAXEE did say they are working on firmware with no timeline available, mainly because they want to do it right, and this leads back to the weight and quality. VAXEE had said they didn't want to rush into making lightweight mice, and also didn't want to make them if there would be a sacrifice to the quality of them. If anything, the quality of the mouse has been improved with the XE-S. I consider VAXEE as one of the best in terms of build quality, and for them to take it a step further whilst also addressing player feedback is incredible. The changes that I mentioned to the main switches and buttons were needed. Pressing and holding the buttons on other VAXEE mice created a lot of distracting movement. This adjustment has resulted in them feeling incredible, like the best feeling switches and buttons in a gaming mouse. And so playing with this has honestly been amazing. I had been using the standard XE for a couple of weeks again just because I wanted to. I had no idea I was getting the XE-S. Even though the size of the XE-S isn't what I'd prefer, the improvements to it massively make up for that. Despite my hand size and my grip that seems to regularly experience an identity crisis, the mouse has been really comfortable to hold. The XE shape has transferred really well to a smaller size, and it results in a mouse that I feel can be used for all grip types if you have small to medium sized hands. With larger hand sizes, it would really depend on where your fingers will end up being placed on the main buttons. I've been using this mainly on a Fantech StrikePad Pro and also a Quick Heavy featuring custom made ketchup stains. And this mouse joins an exclusive club because I really do feel like I perform better with this mouse. It could be the sensor, it might be the weight and the shape, but much like my experience with the Ninjutsu Sora 4K and V2, I just play better with it. But all this does come at a cost because the price has increased in this economy by around $10 in euros to a total of around $139.99 or €159.99. This is the unpopular change, by the way. However, if I take into consideration the improvements made, I think it's worth buying. The changes are significant enough for you to feel a noticeable difference from VAXEE's previous mice, so that increase has given you an actual benefit in return. In fact, based on how I perform with it and the improved quality, I think VAXEE has given us the best mouse you can buy. If the improvements they've made carry over to their other models, it would be hard to not call them the best mouse manufacturer. If you want to check out a mouse that is as good as this one, there's a review on screen now.